Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny came out last year in 2023. This follows Indiana Jones on his fifth and probably final adventure. This time going after the Dial, or Archimedes Dial, whatever you want to call it. This thing has like 5 names throughout this entire movie. But yeah, he's going after this with his goddaughter this time around. This movie did a lot of different things, and we're just going to talk about it because there's a lot to talk about here, honestly. It only came out like 10 months ago. It's not even a year old yet. The de-aging of Harrison Ford is probably the main selling point of this movie, or at least the second main selling point. Because when the first trailers for this movie came out, people were mostly talking about the de-aged Harrison Ford. They took Harrison Ford and they did all these cool effects to fully de-age him. And that's probably why it lost like $100 million because of just the de-aging alone, which was pretty good in most shots. Most. It's a very good older style Indiana Jones adventure, how it would feel in one of those original movies. Because it's executed like one, it kind of looks like one, and it just has that same feel that those original movies had, which is just always great. Cause like, if you know it's good when like it feels like one of those originals, it just feels like a good Indiana Jones adventure for those parts. Then it cuts to 1969. And a big problem people have with this movie is they don't like to see a sadder side of Indiana Jones. Which, for me, I don't have a huge problem with. Because it shows, yeah, his whole world is falling apart. His son is dead. His wife left him because his son is dead. And he has nothing to live for because all of his students hate him and no longer want to sleep with him. It's honestly quite a travesty. But Indiana Jones does get sucked back into the adventure following a retirement because of his goddaughter named Helena Shaw, played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Now, I know, a lot of controversy surrounds this character because a bunch of man babies are like, "Oh, yada, but it's a woman." Yeah. They did have a good relationship in the film. You got to see how over the course of the movie, their relationship grew, and they learned to trust each other, they learned to care for each other. And Helena just learned, like, hey, maybe Andy was right and I should have listened to him. It's just a theory, guys. But yeah, that is her arc. And I think it's really good to see it, kind of like how Indy used to be alongside how Indy is now, kind of just have a contrast between these two characters. It does lead to this adventure. We have a bunch of neo-Nazis for this movie because, like, if we can't do Nazis again, because it's the 60s and, like, the war is over now, we're still gonna do Nazis. You best believe we're still gonna do Nazis. So they bring back a bunch of neo-Nazis. Mads Mikkelsen does play a pretty good villain. Some might consider it forgettable, but I think it was fine. It was fine for what it was. Mads Mikkelsen is known for playing good villains, and he yet again plays another one, really good one here. They go across the world. The map sequences, though they are not like they were in the previous 4 movies, they still are done fairly well for what they are. But there still is a good tuk-tuk chase at one point, which maybe goes on for a little bit too long, I will admit. But for the most part, it is a pretty good chase, and cinematography is really good. They eventually find the dial, and they go back in time. Now, personally, this is like one of my most favorite parts of the movie, because you just have them going back in time. And Indy's like, guys, you absolute buffoonerators, continental drift. And then they're like, shut up. So then they go back in time. So then you have this situation where you have all of these Romans thinking that this huge plane is a dragon. You have these Nazis shooting at the Romans. Romans versus Nazis versus Indiana Jones. Some might call that dumb, but I just call it epic, man. That is just freaking incredible. It's just an insane idea that I think they did really well. And Indy is brought back, reuniting with Marion, and it's a beautiful sequence. Finally getting to close out this franchise with a bang, I say, because I really liked this movie. Yeah, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. A lot of people didn't like it, but for me, I'm gonna have a completely different experience from everybody else who's seen this movie for one key reason. This is the only one I'm probably ever gonna see in the theaters while it's coming out. with the trailers, theorizing about it, talking about it, all those different things, I'm gonna grow up with this movie. So I'm probably gonna be like, you know, I really liked this one. Alongside people who grew up with, say, the original, like, Raiders, Last Crusade, Temple of Doom, all of those, it's gonna be a drastically different experience between me, very much enjoying this movie, and other people, they're like, don't this movie sucks. And, yeah, people are gonna have a different opinion. So I just want to talk about the good, the okay, and the bad, and then round it out with my score. So starting off with the good. Harrison Ford does a very good performance, even if he is sidelined for certain parts, because obviously he's older, and he also, like, injured himself on set, so he couldn't do as much as he even wanted to do with his older age. But, yeah, so Harrison Ford plays an amazing job as an older Indiana Jones. Something else that's good is the, relationship between Helena and Indy. And now this is leaning more into the okay category, but I still will put it in the good. Something else that's good is the de-aging sequence. I freaking love that entire sequence. It is just done so well. The whole sequence on the train, everything. That is just so freaking good. And so that's just amazing. The villains were good enough. No, we're gonna start off with the okay category now. Something else that's okay is the villains. Yeah. I really loved this movie. I love this movie. This is probably, I like this movie a lot more than other people. But that is because this is the one I'm going to grow up with. Therefore, I'm going to have a different experience with it. And I can't help but love this movie. This being my first Indiana Jones adventure in theaters, I care a lot about this movie. I just think it was done really well. I will admit, it does have a lot of problems. And I can admit that. But I do really like this movie. From the story, from the way it's executed, so many different things. I personally enjoy this movie. If I had to rate it out of 100, though, I'm going to end up giving this movie an 81. Because I really like this movie, an older Indiana Jones, and I think it went out with a bang. And, yeah, just pretty good movie. I enjoyed it. What do you guys think about it? If you enjoyed this video or any of my other content, please just subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.